DeSanto Propane is 4 generations strong as a trustworthy, family-owned business with unmatched customer service. Go online at DeSantoPropane.com for more info or call toll-free at 1-800-752-4574 today. Since 1937, the difference has been DeSanto Propane.
Inside to Stevenson, up against Kaminsky, Funky good in the ball!
Santel, all the way to the basket, foul, lays it in for
2! Hey, high school basketball fans, welcome to the Upstate Hoops Podcast here on Monday, February 24th, 2025. It's our big 2025 sectional preview episode, so settle in, grab a cup of coffee or a snack. I'm Jim Sinicropi along with Paul Russo and Kyle Evans, and we're going to give our final power rankings of the year, and then we're going to look at each bracket of the 16 sectional tournaments about to commence this week here in Section 5. But first, the Upstate Hoops Podcast and all of our coverage of Wayne Finger Lakes High School basketball is brought to you thanks to the support of Cicino's Pizzeria and Restaurant. Order online at cicinos.com. And DeSanto Propane. Since 1937, the difference has been DeSanto Propane. And Little John and Barbie Orthodontics. Check out Dr. Rod and Dr. Liz online at littlejohnortho.com. I'd like to thank our sponsors here as we're about to begin our final episode of the season for bringing this coverage to you guys all year long, both here in studio and out inside the gymnasiums. So let's get to it. Fellas, it's a great time of year, isn't it? We never know exactly where we're going to be for the next 2 weeks, but it'll probably be in a gymnasium or an arena. And as we follow these local teams to hopefully the states, maybe a few of them.
Yeah, we've been pretty lucky the past few years. I know since I've been on full time, we've made a trip up to the Capital District every year. So hopefully we get one more this year, or in the boys' case, maybe down to Binghamton. So yeah, best time of year, pretty chaotic. I know from the, I guess, personal side of it, I enjoyed the final couple of days right now on our end of, I don't know about necessarily quiet, but a little bit,
Calm before the
yeah,
storm.
I don't have to, I can go to Walmart tonight in peace and not have to worry. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for me, the one thing that's so crazy about it is in 11 days, we're already going to be in the finals. We're
Right,
just
heading
going to start
fast.
tomorrow, but it goes so quick. So, teams have to play so many games in a short amount of time. So that's what I think makes it even more tough to bring home a sectional championship.
Yeah, it all happens fast. And then, for those that make it there, it gets really exciting. Maybe a trip to the Far West Regional. You got some classification playdowns and stuff. But first things first, we'll look at each bracket individually and see who has the best chances in our estimation to bring home a sectional title or maybe beyond. But before we get to that, we got our final power rankings of the year, but also there was some action this week on the court to wrap up the regular season. And I thought some of these games are interesting in the fact that, it's a final test for a lot of these teams entering postseason. And you've seen a couple teams start to surge and a few teams start to falter. So it was an interesting week. And the first game I'd like to talk about is Geneva defeated Avon 57-49. Xavier Praler had 20 points. Geneva's one of those teams that's kind of trending good. They beat Waterloo last week. Avon's the top team in B2. I believe they're still the top seed in B2. So a nice win for Geneva. And then on Tuesday night, there's a lot of Finger Lakes East, the final night of Finger Lakes East action. And you had Wayne thumping up Waterloo. Waterloo's one of those teams that's maybe going backwards a little bit as we head to postseason. 75-41, Wayne wins easy, avenging their loss to Waterloo on January 17th. And then Newark and Pelmac had a pretty good game. Newark won 56-49. Blake Steve had 17 points. Minders, after having the huge week last week, winning 3 games, they hosted Penn on senior night. It would have been a perfect opportunity to trip up heading into sectionals and lose that momentum, but they won 69-57 behind 23 points from Jack Brady. Penn boys 1-19 on the year, but man, they did not play like a 1-19 team. They're better than that. They just play in a really tough league, and I'm sure they'll be back strong next year. Gananda in East Rochester, in a game with Wayne County title implications on the line, saw East Rochester winning 78-60 to split their season series with the Blue Panthers. Elijah Tanner 30 points, and then Clyde Savannah defeated Red Creek defeated Clyde Savannah 60-55 behind 22 points from Joseph Decker. But congratulations to Tanner Bush. His 17 points on the night gave him 1,000 on his career. So another member of the 1,000-point club. We've inducted a lot this year. I think it was 9 or 10, Kyle.
Yeah, it's up to 9.
Yeah, so and maybe a few more here in the postseason. And then Marcus Whitman got a really nice win against AAA UPrep, 57-54, securing some extra sectional points. Logan Storms had 14, Pendergrass had 14, Terrico Blue Eye had 14. And moving ahead to Wednesday night, South Seneca boys defeated Dundee Bradford to finish their regular season at 18-2, 26 points for Kenny Halsey. And then East Rochester clinched the Wayne County title, defeating Clyde Savannah 79-40. Back-to-back games for the East Rochester Bombers. Thursday night saw Pelmac beat Marcus Whitman 51-48. Pelmac starting to play better. Lions also defeated World of Inquiry 80-79, 33 points, career high for Jameer Johnson. World of Inquiry, the top seed in B1. Lions is B2. This was a great test for Lions heading into the postseason, and they passed by the skin of their teeth. Great win, 80-79. Quickly on the girls' side, just a few games of consequence. Dundee Bradford beat Marcus Whitman 56-47 to finish 16-3 on the season. Marcus Whitman at 16-2. Wednesday night, Lions beat Gananda 69-30. Kind of a statement win for the Lions girls heading into the postseason. Carmela Parker had 20 points there. And then in one of the better games of the year on the girls' side, Pelmac defeats Newark 77-74. Pelmac finishes 15-5. Newark finishes 14-6. Shelby Greer, 33 points on 9 threes. Taryn Goodness, 27. So teammates from Pelmac, 33 and 27 respectively. And, Newark's been trending, playing really good. And Pelmac's got to feel good about that win heading into the postseason. When we look at the brackets, you might see potential for rematches for some of these league mates. So we'll look forward to doing that. But a great week to end the regular season. So let's take a look at our final power rankings of the year as we head into the postseason. And there you have the boys. Wayne finishing number 1, but not too far behind is Lions. And then Honeoye, unranked to start the season, all the way up to 3 to end the season. Geneva trending up back into the top 5 at number 4. Minders as well. What have you done for me lately? Well, they won 4 straight, and they beat teams like, Waterloo and Marcus Whitman, who now are behind them. Minders poised to have a good postseason here, all the way up to number 5. Waterloo 6, East Rochester 7, Wayne County champs. South Seneca 8, Marcus Whitman 9. Marcus Whitman struggling a little bit down the stretch, and then Pelmac finishes at number 10. And it really gets tough from 5 to 10, honestly. But I think the story of the year, guys on the boys' side, regular season, Honeoye and Landon Washburn.
Yeah.
And then also Lions. Putting together another great season, potential for another sectional title. Of course, we knew Wayne was going to be good. Maybe they didn't dominate quite as much as we thought they would. But any final thoughts on the regular season and our final power rankings?
Yeah, I mean, hands down, Honeoye is the surprise, probably overall. Maybe the Finger Lakes West overall a little bit, obviously. I mean, South Seneca was up there all year pretty much. Dundee Bradford boys made a lot of appearances
Red
as
Jacket
well.
had a nice season, winning record. They won twice this past year.
Obviously headlined by Honeoye.
Yep.
Let's not get it twisted, but I'd say the Finger Lakes West had a really nice, maybe overall year in that sense.
Yep.
Yeah, and I'll give credit to the Geneva girls, 13-7. They've come a long way over the last few years, improving each year. Obviously, they went independent, but it's still good to see 13-win team.
Yeah, it's a nice turnaround for the program as they try to build it back up. Let's take a look at the girls' power rankings. Speaking of girls, Waterloo, number 1, no surprise there. The Lions girls this year seem better than the teams of the past that have been good, but not maybe championship good. Well, obviously positioned at number 2 to end the season here. We think that this might be the year for them. Newark girls at number 3, despite the loss to Pelmac, but I think more than hurting Newark, it helped Pelmac, who jumped up to a tie for 4th with Dundee Bradford, who got a big win against Marcus Whitman. Same thing, the West girls is just like the East boys in the Finger Lakes West, showing out at the top. Dundee Bradford and Marcus Whitman, and then Bloomfield at 7. They're in the East, a former West school, but they finish at 7. Gananda 8. Clyde Savannah 9. And there's Geneva ending in the top 10. Never would have thought that heading into the season. They played a little softer schedule on the independent side, but you know what? You got a winning season, and you know you can build on that heading into next year. So from the girls' side of things, any comments?
Weird for me, maybe in the overall sense. I thought it was a pretty consistent year, I would call it, on the girls' side of things when it all settled out. The teams who kind of jumped out early kind of stayed out, for the whole duration. Obviously headlined by Waterloo. I think I'll save a little bit more on them for when we get to the bracket stuff, only because to me they're maybe one of the biggest contenders in B1. So I'll hold out on the overall side over there, but give a little kudos again to Wayne County girls. End up being a pretty competitive year up there once again this year.
And
Lions,
that's with ER kind of being disappointing.
Yeah.
Between Lions and Gananda, and that's why I was surprised at the deficit this week when Lions played Gananda and won very easily. Something good about Lions, obviously, but maybe not so good for Gananda. I don't know, Kyle. What do you think about it?
Yeah, I think Lions is much better. They kind of just rolled by them in both games they played this year. I do think Lions has a legit shot at winning a sectional title, just because if you look at their bracket, it doesn't seem too difficult. Obviously, they can still, there can still be upsets and all that, but you have to feel confident, I think, if you're a parent or a fan of the Lions girls team.
Well, that said, that wraps up the regular season. Now, one of my favorite things we do all year, we get to break down some of these brackets, and we're going to start with the girls. We'll start from Class D and work our way up. We'll obviously won't spend so much time on Class D here. As you see, Romulus, the 12 seed, taking on Andover Whitesville on Wednesday night at 6. Your top seed, Elba. Where's our 2 seed on? Oh, Fillmore. Yep. Yeah. And then CG Finney. So, anyways, not much to talk about here. Let's move on to the C classes and C2 for the girls. Again, C2, C1 champs will play in a playoff game to see who goes to the Far West Regional, which I think is in Rochester this year, right?
Girls are in Buffalo this year.
Oh, the girls are in Buffalo. The boys are in Rochester. Yep, gotcha. Okay, so Keshequa, the top seed, but Dundee Bradford, the 2 seed. Really, you see the other Wayne Finger Lakes teams in there, HAC, Honeoye, Naples. Congratulations to Naples on a good year, getting up to a 7 seed. They're going to get a home game before having to go to Dundee Bradford, but that program definitely overachieved this year, although I think it might end if they win against Dundee Bradford. But, guys, what Dundee Bradford might be the 2 seed, but I got to consider them a favorite here. We expect to see them in the finals at FLCC on March 8th.
Yeah, I'd be pleasantly surprised. Maybe not necessarily chalk through the quarter or through the pre-quarterfinal round, but in the sense of getting to semis and then to the final, I would be really surprised if it's not a Keshequa versus Dundee Bradford matchup in that game.
That'd be a heck of a game at FLCC. I mean, Kyle, this Dundee Bradford team has tons of experience, girls that have been there before. Great season. If you're filling out a bracket here, you got Dundee Bradford as a champ?
I don't know. I pause a little bit. York is very good. They beat Bloomfield. They swept Bloomfield this year. York is 15-5. They're probably going to have to face them in the semis based on this bracket. I do think Dundee Bradford can win. I'm just not sure. York is tough.
Yes, that won't be a walk in the park for sure.
And one of the key things, too, that I think we don't talk about a ton of, but, it's that semifinal round is in Avon, and that's not necessarily like it's a far drive in that sense, but you look at if it stays kind of chalk for the top 3 seeds, we'll call it Keshequa, Dundee, Bradford, York. I mean, Keshequa and York play at Avon pretty consistently, obviously. So just one of those things.
It definitely matters. So let's move it up now to C1 girls.
Yep. There we go.
Now, a lot of local flavor here. And you see Bloomfield is a 3 seed. They play in the Finger Lakes East all year. So this is a step down in school size for competition. So that's got to help them. Taking on Red Jacket to start things off. And then you got the Red Creek girls and the underachieving East Rochester girls. Either one of those teams could be a sleeper. Red Creek's had a great season. They'd have to get through Bloomfield. I don't like seeing all the colored brackets all together because it means we're eliminating local teams early, but we're also guaranteed a Wayne Finger Lakes team in the semi. Chances are, in my opinion, it'll be Bloomfield. Then up top, you got Gananda, who's got every right to make a run this year, and Clyde Savannah, who's shown that they can win games. Can they win enough consistently here to move through this bracket? Kelmum, a tough 1 seed. Byron Burgeon, a tough 2 seed. But it's set up here where certainly from the bottom of the bracket, I'd expect to see Bloomfield in the semis, and I'd actually expect to see him in the finals. Up top, I think Gananda or Clyde might need a little help, whether it's in the form of an upset or them pulling the upset themselves when they get to the semis, if one of the two gets to the semis, which I think we'll see. I'd love to see Gananda and Clyde in a quarterfinal match, guaranteeing a semifinal placement. But guys, any thoughts on C1?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard not to kind of follow in line with you in all honesty, Jim, but to maybe kind of back it up a little bit too here and everything like that, just kind of looking. The top of the bracket's interesting because it's teams that, they don't necessarily play each other, but they're quasi-league affiliates, for example, like Geneseo, Alexander, stuff like that. Kind of, I guess, in the same sense. So you look at the bottom of the bracket where it's Bloomfield versus Red Jacket, and that was a league matchup, obviously, until this year and everything
Very
like that.
familiar
So
opponents.
it's gonna be interesting. I like Bloomfield out of the bottom half of the bracket, but the issue is that Byron Burgeon team, right? And who knows what else might kind of come about that. So who knows there up top. Kind of agree with you, Jim. I think things might need to break the right way if we want to see Clyde or Gananda make a run.
Kelmum and Byron Burgeon is the top 2 seeds. Kyle, are they legit top 2 seeds, or is a Bloomfield team actually again, Bloomfield plays in the Finger Lakes East. They're going to lose to good teams like Waterloo and Pelmac and Newark, but are they better than the 1 or 2 seeds in this bracket?
I think they actually have a shot at being better. I just looked quickly. Kelmum did beat Gananda by 19, so that matters because they're at the top of the bracket. Yeah. But I think Gananda will beat Clyde, and I think Bloomfield's locked into the semis. Not sure Gananda or Clyde can get past or get into the semifinals, but still an incredible season for both teams. I don't think we saw either of them doing this well. Clyde had 14 wins, I believe, and what did Gananda have, like 13? Yeah, so I don't think we would have expected that. So great seasons if they do fall short.
Yep, absolutely. So Bloomfield is our local favorite in C1. Was that C1 or C2?
That's C1.
C1. So now we're ready to move up to really the bread and butter of the Wayne Finger Lakes in the Class B.
Well, normally.
Well, that's true. A lot of teams are up in Class A now with the reclassifications. Yeah. But let's take a look at B2. And there you go. Lions number 1, Marcus Whitman number 2. It's a small field. It's got to look really good for Lions. Who do we got there down in 5? Williamson Marion?
Yep.
Yeah, well, great season for them combining programs and now are successfully a winning program, which is good to see. They gave Lions all they could take when they last played, if that was to happen. Again, Lions 1 win away from the semis, as is Marcus Whitman up top. Great season for Marcus Whitman. These semifinal matchups, Whitman against Leroy or Avon, and then Lions against Canisteo Greenwood, potentially setting up, wouldn't it be great to see a Lions-Whitman final? I think it's real possibility here.
Yeah, I mean, I think barring something maybe crazy, that should be the case. Just kind of looking at it. I don't know, Leroy's had a pretty good year, obviously, down at the bottom half of that bottom bracket as well. Kansas City Greenwood usually plays on the tougher side too, all things considered. So it'll be pretty interesting to kind of see that first round game between them and Williamson Marion. But yeah, pipe dream I can certainly see happening between Lions and Marcus Whitman meeting up in the finals. And quick note, congratulations to head coach Liz Royston, B2 Coach of the Year on the girls' side in Section 5.
Great, yeah,
So,
well deserved.
yes.
I mean, what a great season, and to see the progression of the program year to year to finally this season where they've established themselves as a top team in the Wayne Finger Lakes girls division and enter as a 2 seed. I mean, Kyle, we talked about it off the top of the power rankings. Seems like the year Lions can win. So first of all, obviously you consider them the favorite. How do you like their draw? And number 2, if Whitman can get there, do they have a chance?
Yeah, my takeaway is Lions and Whitman both went 18-2, and then you look at the third team, Leroy, they're 12-8. So look at the drop off there. And Lions would only have to win 2 of these games to get to the finals. I think it's almost a lock, honestly. I think this is the year Jay LaBelle gets their first sectional title. And I do think Marcus Whitman has a chance. But again, I've said it all year, I don't know how good they are because of their weaker schedule. And they lost both games against Dundee Bradford. So that scares me if I'm Marcus Whitman. Because then that makes me think, well, Leroy has a good shot against them in the semis.
Yeah, I mean, that'll be the obviously Whitman would need to beat Leroy to get to play Lions, but if they do in a comfortable fashion, I would feel more comfortable about that being a game in the finals against Lions. But I agree with you. Marcus Whitman has had an outstanding season, and it could culminate in a sectional title, but it seems like Lions is a team of destiny.
Yeah, and if they do meet in the finals, Marcus Whitman and Lions, I think Lions blows them out.
Yeah. Well, it will be fun to see. Maybe a little locker room billboard, chalkboard material for Whitman if it happens.
And I'm pretty good at that. Look at Geneva, the Geneva boys. Even though, again, I have nothing against them.
It was me that said it. Hey, we got opinions here,
Yeah.
So move it up now to B1. And there you have, what the heck, Waterloo not even 1 seed. They've had a lock on the 1 seed for years. And you got Minders there coming in at 8 seed. At least they got a home game against Haverling Hammondsport, the Double H combo down there in southern Yates County, Steuben County. Yeah, it's tough to see Minders making much of a run, although I've seen it before. They've had some issues with injuries and sicknesses, and it's just been a tough season for the Minders girls this year. But one last chance to maybe make a run. Waterloo could face league mate Penn Yan which is a tough first round match. Waterloo will be heavily favored, but Penn Yan's is not a pushover. That will not be a gimme game. And then for Waterloo, they'd face a tough semifinal matchup against likely Hornell. We'll wait and see what happens. And then up top, I don't know much about the young women, but they're the top seed. Yeah. But again, even though Waterloo's a 2 seed, I got to consider them favorites here.
Well, I'm considering them the favorite. I think it's time that the group that has now been led by Addison Bree and Macy Miller kind of solidify their portion of their own chapter.
Dynasty.
Yeah,
Yep.
and I certainly think this year could be the year, kind of like the way that they've really played the second half of the year, especially everything considered. And I think it's kind of crazy.
State caliber team? I mean, you followed them multiple years to the
I can see. I mean, I can definitely see
Hudson
it.
Valley.
I can see it. I mean, the tough part is you don't know what you get necessarily beyond, a crossover.
Waterloo Lions.
But yeah,
Imagine that one.
it'd be pretty big. I mean, the classic Waterloo situation here, I guess even Minders in this case, and Penn Yan to a degree that we've seen in the past recent years, they got to go through some sort of degree of Wellsville, Dansville, Hornell, and Livonia to potentially here. So
And now the young women.
Yeah.
Kyle, what can you tell us about the young women?
Yeah, I'm looking them up right now. To me, again, it's another weak schedule.
Yeah.
North Rose Woket, they won by 7.
Yeah.
They beat this Monroe team. What are they, Class AA?
Yeah.
And they're at the bottom of the standings. So, yeah, I think it's kind of similar to Marcus Whitman. Just a weaker schedule makes them look very good. That's why with this, you cannot go by records. You really
Not
can't.
alone, yeah.
And sometimes not even seeding.
Especially with these teams that aren't in leagues like the young women. Where are the young women? Rochester
yeah.
somewhere? Is it a, yeah.
And I thought I saw a photo of them at like the banquet over the weekend, and they only have like a 5 or 6.
Well, that was about.
seed banquet.
I was about to give a hot take here. I can see Minders getting to the semifinals.
Yeah.
In all honesty,
That'd
only
be great to
because
see. Are they all healthy?
well, that's the issue, I guess, to that degree. But the reason why I say that is because before we did our final regular season broadcast, the Minders Waterloo boys game, Minders girls played against CG Finney.
Right.
Got to win in overtime. That Finney team's a lot like that young girls prep team, the way it sounds. Small roster, decent enough, but
I bet you Finney's
mean,
better than that
could-
young women
it
team.
could. I mean, it could happen. There's a path there that I see better than maybe they had a couple weeks ago. If they
They'll have
maybe
to go on the road.
yeah.
I don't know where the young women play,
That's good
what
point.
gymnasium or what that looks like, but it is kind of odd thing, when you got some of these
They should change their
charter
name.
schools. Yeah, really.
What's the point of calling them that?
Yeah.
I think it's all.
Bizarre.
It just all
It's
comes
the name
down
of the
to
school. It must be
prep,
like the
yeah,
Young
charters
Women
or whatever.
Charter
Yeah.
School of whatever.
Name change.
And we never root for those charter schools. We just don't because they're arbitrarily placed, not arbitrarily, but they're placed by the competition committee.
Yeah.
And they can move from class to class. And sometimes you get a one that's really good and they're placed too low. So versus the public schools, it's a whole nother debate that's still going on. It's been going on.
Charters are technically public.
It's been going on for 20 technically, but you know that you're not like enrolled there based on where you live.
True.
But anyway, yeah, it's Waterloo Lions potential state playing game if they can both pull it off, and that would be
Another rematch too.
fantastic. Last year in the
Well,
play-in?
this regular season.
Oh yeah, they played
Yeah.
and Waterloo won that game.
Yeah.
All right, let's move it up to the last A class or the first of the A classes for the girls.
The only A class for the girls this year.
Oh really? There's not like East High #1. Wow.
Yeah.
So a lot of these what about like Canandaigua? There's got to be another
They're double A.
class. Yeah,
They're
it's double A.
Double A too. Yeah.
Right. So when Double A will not have a state playing a game round against the A champ, right?
Correct.
The A goes right through to Hudson Valley.
The A's will go to the far west, and then
Oh yeah, the Far West. I'm sorry. Yeah, of course. Okay, let's pull that back up again. Let's take a look. You got the top seed East High and the second seed East Ridge, and then from back behind them, you see Newark down there getting drawn Mid Lakes in the first round, and then they'd have to face Our Lady of Mercy, Pelmac and Wayne facing off. I mean, when I look at this again, Geneva, great job, great season. Again, they didn't play a Finger Lakes East season. They played an independent season. I don't see them getting by East Ridge. I do, however, see the potential for Pelmac or Newark, especially Pelmac seems to be peaking right about now. I could see those guys making runs. It won't be easy, but between Pelmac or Newark, I think that's our best chances here in Class A.
yeah, I'm gonna leave the bracket for just a second longer here while I start with this. The bracket in A this year did no favors, obviously, to our Finger Lakes teams here by any means.
Well, they're our highest seed's a 5,
Right.
So that's one part of it. Why the bracket doesn't line up well for them.
I think Newark has the best shot if I had to pick between them and Palmac, only because I think they can fight out of Mercy a little bit better. I think the tough parts for both teams, in all honesty, Newark, Palmac, are going to come in that semifinal round should they both make it. What I will just call the East of East High and East Ridge are both really good teams. So I'd like to see, hypothetically, a Newark versus Palmac sectional final game. I just don't think it's in the cards.
Well, that's unlikely.
Yeah.
One of the two would be great.
Yeah.
But they could both have, man. Those are two good
Yeah.
teams. And again, Pelmac, led by Taryn Goodness. They got a roster of players with experience. Again, they had a nice win over and they beat Newark on Wednesday night. So 5 days ago, they beat Newark. But Newark's very good too, as we've seen, and kind of hasn't really fully hit their stride for what the potential, I think, of, how good they could be. So, I think if they play up to their full potential, that they're much better than a 6 or 7 seed that they are in the bracket.
And that's the thing, right, is, you don't, to a degree, I mean, it helps that, for example, we see Mercy around here a lot of the non-league games for a lot of these Finger Lakes, primarily East teams, are against Mercy. For example, I know Peñan's historically played them. Minders kind of does like an every other year thing, if I remember right. Palmac has played them a ton. Like, they see each other pretty consistently. So I think that type of deal helps a little bit there. Newark played Eastridge this year, I think,
lost by
right?
10.
So,
Early in the year, right?
I think kind of middle of the year.
Yeah.
I think that Newark girls are better now than they were early in the year. They just have come together.
Agree.
Again, they did get that loss at home to Palmac, which you would have liked to see them maybe handle that game. But on the other hand, kudos to Palmac, who now has a little extra juice heading into the postseason. What's your thoughts on this one, Kyle? I mean, obviously, as we get closer to from the A to the A's, the competition from Rochester gets tougher, and Palmac and Newark are both really good basketball teams, but how do they stack up against the best teams from Rochester?
Yeah, well, Palmac's the hottest team, I think, in this bracket. 8 straight wins. They beat Fairport, they beat Newark, they beat Canandaigua.
True.
I think they're peaking at the right time. It is going to be tough, though. Even Eastridge beat Waterloo. I know Waterloo's not in this class, but just goes to show you how good they are.
Yeah.
Newark, I do really like Newark, too. But again, Eastridge is going to be tough. I'll say Palmac advances further, just because of how hot they are, where they've been in the past. They've beat several of these teams already. So I'll pick Palmac to go further.
I think Palmac's also got to be excited that Waterloo's not in this bracket, right? Waterloo has ended their season more than once in the past several years. So, maybe to them it's better. Maybe they're not afraid of the Eastridges and the Our Ladies of Mercies of the world.
Yeah, and East High, the number 1 seed, does have 4 losses. It's not like they have 1 or 2 losses. So
now they're playing an independent schedule, I believe, too, right? East High. I don't think they're a member of any league. Are they a member of one of the Monroe leagues?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I could have sworn they were part of the what is it technically called?
Oh, the Rochester City League. Yeah, you're probably right. Kyle's checking it out right now. But this is when you get up to the A classes, it is a little level. You're not likely to see how in B1 we thought, well, maybe the Miners girls can come out of that 9 seed and make a run. You don't see that as much in the A groups because there's just too many quality teams at the top. Yeah. And Palmac or Newark is not at the top. They're 5 and 7 seed.
Yeah.
So, but anyways, you got the East High schedule up there, Kyle? Just wondering.
Yeah, I'm trying to, but I have so many tabs open, it's not loading.
Well, while he's doing that, we can quickly go through the other two, the other bracket for the girls, because there's no Wayne Finger Lakes. We didn't even put up there. Okay, that'll be Canandaigua.
Yeah, East High was in the Rochester City League. They went 8-0 in league play. But a lot of these teams aren't very good. It seems like they've picked up quite a few wins on some bad.
Who beat them?
Sorry, let me pull that up. I have like 10 tabs.
Should have let you know that we wanted to talk about East High in such detail.
Yeah, I try to write down so many details too going into this. And
probably not the East High team you had the most notes on probably going into today, hypothetically.
Did Tim Jackson coach them? He did. I don't think he does anymore.
I'm not too sure on
Former
that.
Clyde boys coach.
Pittsford Mendon beat them by 9. Honeoye Falls Lima beat them by 8. Yeah, that's what I mean. I'm not really sure their record represents exactly. They're that unbeatable.
Let's go Palmac then, right?
Aquinas beat them by 35.
I know that's a different,
but still 35.
But that is a good Aquinas team.
Yeah, and they spanked them.
Yeah,
and I think their 4th loss was against Bishop Kearney by 10.
Okay. Well, I mean, like you say, Palmac, is trending in the right direction. Certainly can be in that game, maybe pull off the win, find themselves in the finals. Got to win a couple games to get there. So from the girls' side of things, we got Waterloo and Lions as teams that we're considering favorites. Next tier down, you got teams like Bloomfield, Marcus Whitman. I guess we might be considering Bloomfield in C2 as a favorite too. Then you got your next tier of teams, like Newark and Palmac. If they were back down in B, they'd be favorites, but they're in A. In Gananda and Marcus Whitman. So a lot of teams with potential here to bring home the banner for the girls and put it in the gym, bring home the sectional block, and then continue on to the state tournament. So let's take a look at the boys' brackets. And again, we'll start at Class D. And there you got Marion down there at 11 seed. Fillmore, Andover, Whitesburg. These D matchups, classification, usually some exciting games by the time, and some really good teams like Avoca Prattsburg, who's down this year, but traditionally pretty good. But not too much to talk about here, unless anybody wants to make a case for Marion.
I wish I could, but I cannot.
Well, here's a fact. They're the only winless team in the entire Section 5.
Ugh.
Yeah, just look. There's no – every team has at least one win.
Wow.
Even early college, who's awful, 1-19.
Well, so what you're saying is Marion's probably going to lose to Hammondsport tomorrow.
By 70. I'm kidding.
Okay.
Maybe like 32 or something.
On a real note, probably Fillmore's to lose this year, I think, in D on the boys' side. But when AP is down like they are this year, wide open game.
Yeah, it does kind of open things up for everybody. And no Romulus. So Romulus doesn't have a team. They're combined with South Seneca. Okay. So now let's kick it up to some action where
Speaking
now
of South Seneca.
Now look at this. 1 and 2 seeds, both from the Finger Lakes West, like we were talking about. With that being said, there's some other good teams in this bracket, whether it's Pavilion, Finney, Wheatland, Chili. Getting down there to Ketchiquah, Mount Morris would be not the easiest first round match for Honeoye. But now's where we find out how good was the Finger Lakes West this year. We got top 1 and 2 seeds. Are they going to meet in the finals? Are they one of them going to win it? Neither of them. But it's been a while since we've been able to look at a Class C, lower C bracket and see 1 and 2 seeds out of the West. And Naples in there too at 10. I think they'd struggle to get by South Seneca if they can beat North Star Christian. But what are the odds here? And wouldn't that be great to see them play in the Blue Cross?
Yeah, I wish. I'm really hoping for South Seneca. I'm pulling for them. Wheatland Chili scares me. That is a team that beat them a couple years ago in South Seneca's home gym in a quarterfinal game. They still have some players on both teams, to be fair, who played in that game. But Leighton Williams for Wheatland Chili is a really good player, and I do worry about that matchup for South Seneca. For Honeoye, I think it's a little bit of an easier path, admittedly, compared to them. So as much as I'd like to see Honeoye and South Seneca in Blue Cross Arena, I just don't know if it's going to happen.
What are your thoughts, Kyle?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen, but I do think Honeoye gets to the sectional finals. They're just playing way too well. And Landon Washburn, man, that guy's unstoppable right now.
So this is like the coming out party here on a section-wide stage. We've seen him put up all these points. Now he's got a chance to, win. Not that they've won all year. The last time they lost was the first game of the season. So they haven't lost since the end of November.
Yep.
And, here they are, number 1 seed. Can Landon Washburn, as a sophomore, lead this team to the Blue Cross and score 30-something points or more in the Blue Cross and bring home a sectional title to Honeoye? Last time I remember Honeoye being in the Blue Cross was, 5 or 6 years ago. They played Clyde, and one of their top players got hurt early, and Clyde cruised comfortably to victory. It wasn't a blowout by any means, but Clyde was able to maintain a margin and win that game. Honeoye doesn't get there often, and now they got a great chance
And
to not only get there but to win. While their stud Washburn is just a sophomore.
much like I did on the girls' side here, congratulations, C3 Coach of the Year, Rob Delasanti for Honeoye. So,
And he's been there for a while.
yeah, he has.
And he does. And if there's ever a deserving coach, it's that one this year. I think between him and Liz Royston winning those.
I ultimately hope too for Honeoye. This is obviously it continues beyond this year, but this is a program I think people kind of forget about. Like, they have a pretty good history in basketball, all things considered, down there.
Yeah, just not a recent history.
But that's the thing, right? So hopefully this kind of reignites a little bit for the Bulldogs, and what a way to cap it off at the very least with a sectional title.
And this could be the beginning of a multi-year, with Landon Washburn being a sophomore. They focus on him a lot, but there's other names on that.
Owen Cuba's the other one for me.
The other Washburn kid. So, I mean, I don't know. It's the most interesting C3 bracket I've seen in a few years.
Keep in mind, CG Finney did beat Lions, and that could be one of their opponents they got to get by.
Yep.
So they're going to have to earn their way. And
again, Finney not there because of school size. They're there because the competition committee placed them there.
Yeah.
So it's something to remember.
True.
It kind of leaves a bitter taste in your mouth if they're the team that knocks you off, and they're only there because the competition committee decided that this year they could be C3 instead of B1.
Not to beat a dead horse, but it's kind of wild seeing North Star Christian in C3.
That's another example of it, and you hate to see it. Yeah. You hate to see it, especially if it comes down to the fact that they're the ones that eliminate you. When you've had such incredible seasons as South Seneca and Honeoye have had this year, it's really been one of the stories, I think. If you take from the beginning of the season when we were looking at how it was going to play out till now, the biggest stories have been Honeoye and South Seneca out of the West.
Yeah, for sure.
So, all right, well, let's kick it up. Now, this is C division, C1, C2, C3. It's a state playing tournament, and it happens fast. I don't know who gets the automatic bye this year because it's not always C1. It goes by sectional points. So it also depends on who wins.
There's like points, a coin flip.
But you'll see two of those teams, sectional champions out of C, play the other one. So they got to play 2 games to get to the Far West Regional game, and they have to do it in 3 days.
Pretty much, yeah.
So, so that could lead for some exciting basketball, especially if we get multiple Wayne Finger Lakes teams into that play-in tournament. But first things first, here's Class C2, and, quietly, we talk about the Dundee Bradford boys girls all the time, but here are the boys with a 1 seed. Clyde Savannah at an 8 seed has the talent to make a run, I think. Red Jacket has a chance to make a mini run. I just think that they've been kind of a step down. They haven't beaten any of the top teams in the West that we've mentioned, but yet have a winning record on the year. But, it's ride or die with Dundee Bradford here. Like I said, maybe Clyde. But when it comes right down to it, I think the teams on the bottom half of this bracket are good, and it'll be a tough.
Yeah.
As a number 1 seed, I don't see any guarantees for Dundee Bradford.
I like their chances maybe a little bit better than, say, maybe the couple of the others outright that we've talked about so far, obviously, on the boys' side. Really, obviously, we've only discussed C3 in depth, but just kind of looking at it quickly, I will say this. That is a scrappy and good Cuba Rushford team in the 2nd seed. Something I never thought I was going to say a few years ago after I saw, they went 2-18 or something, or I don't know, whatever it was a couple of years ago. I'm like, damn, whatever,
They turned it around.
But that's a really good 2 seed. Notre Dame Batavia is a really good 3 seed as well in C2. But up top, I mean, Dundee Bradford's path, I think, is pretty good to get to the sectional final. I'd like to see, hypothetically, if Red Jacket could play them in the semifinal, what maybe could happen, but, Dundee Bradford obviously handled business in the regular season.
I'm not sleeping on Clyde. I'm not sleeping on Clyde.
Okay. I mean, it's tough not to, in a sense, but at the same token, I don't know. Dundee Bradford's looked, at worst, the 2nd best team maybe in the West, or 3rd best team in the West all year. I don't know. But I like Dundee Bradford's chances. I think their path is pretty good to get to the Blue Cross and win the title.
And win and beat the best team from the bottom half of that bracket?
I think it's possible for sure. I just think that Cuba Rushford team's really good, and they shouldn't be taken lightly.
How about you, Kyle? In terms, what about Clyde?
I actually do think they're playing a lot better in the second half. They're losing close games. Remember that Gananda game in Gananda, that high-scoring game just a few weeks ago. and they just fell short. So they're playing well. I do think they could get to the second round. For Dundee Bradford, I looked over their schedule. They play a lot of close games. Worries me at this time of the year. Some of them have lost. Some of them they've obviously won. I'm not sure. I'm going to say they're not making the finals. That's just my prediction, of course. They can, but I don't think
They
they're
lost
going
to
to.
South Seneca in their last game of the regular season on Wednesday by 5.
And they've had trouble with Red Jacket, and South Seneca and Honey are way above Red Jacket. We've seen that. So that's what worries me about Dundee Bradford.
As much as I've been talking, don't sleep on Clyde, they got to flick a switch here. They lost to Red Creek and East Rochester this week. Badly to East Rochester in the final week of the regular season. So while they had a chance to finish the regular season above 500, and then they finished it under 2 games under because of those 2 losses. They needed to win both those games to finish at 500. So, but I see the talent on the roster, and I just feel like a tough second round match for Dundee Bradford.
Oh yeah, I mean either way, right? You can't go into anything lightly by any means. The way we've even been talking about certain teams and situations. So, yeah, do or dies. You never know what can happen anyway. It's the beauty of it.
Do or die.
Yeah. C1. Okay. I want to make sure I went to the right input here.
So, light on the Wayne Finger Lakes teams. Gananda down there is a 3 seed. Probably have a bad taste in their mouth the way the season ended. For them getting beat pretty badly by East Rochester, a team that they beat the first time around, lost by 18 points to finish at 15-5. Red Creek boys, great season. Led by Joseph Decker, 13-6 in the regular season. They just came off a win over Clyde on the road. But I don't know if either one of those teams is really doing it for me in terms of thinking that they got the makeup of a sectional championship team this year. But certainly, as you can see, 1, 2, 3 wins away from it. So what do you think? I think maybe, they're very similar teams, honestly.
It's tough this year because C1's essentially the top half of the old C2, but Geneseo and Alexander kind of been the Pied Pipers at the top of the standings all year. Kind of tough to maybe see them not being in the final against each other. I mean, I'll say this. Gananda and Red Creek are both teams that we've had pretty consistently at worst receiving votes in our power rankings, for example. They obviously are very good. Did they end the years probably the way, like going to someone, Kyle, you brought up about Dundee Bradford, right? Did they end the year the way that they probably wanted to? No, not really. So hopefully, you can use these extra couple of days. You kind of figure some stuff out and go. And obviously it helps. You're able to get a couple extra hours of film session in the way teams do this now and everything. And I mean, who knows? I mean, we've been high on both these teams all year. Why not? Like, I keep going back and forth, a little bit honest, but in these 1-game sample sizes, you never know what can happen.
Yeah, I think both teams are going to the semis. Don't think either team will get into the finals, though. Red Creek has definitely been one of my surprises this year. And remember, they've played some very good games. I mean, they battled with Lions into the fourth quarter. Gananda's had some good wins, but yeah, I think they both fall short in the semis.
Yeah, again, good teams, good seasons, especially Red Creek kind of coming back. Haven't heard much from them since the days of, I can't remember the kids' names. They were brothers for a while. There was Jake Slobe, and then there was Griffin. Maybe the last name was Griffin. I don't know. Some good ball players for sure. And then kind of Red Creek went away for a while. They didn't even have a program one year, didn't field a team. So it's good to see them back in contention and keep an eye on that. I wouldn't be shocked to see either one of those teams in the Blue Cross Arena, but whether they can actually win a game if they get there against a really good team, that will remain to be seen, I suppose. So those are the C classes, and now we jump ahead to the B classes, starting with B2, and there you see the team that beat Gananda by 18 points last week. East Rochester, number 2 seed, one of our surprises. Didn't expect them to be as dominant as they were this year. And then you see Marcus Whitman down there as a 5 seed, product of tough schedule. I think they're a much better 5 seed than you'll find in any other bracket. But you see a collision course with Lions, who, Lions win so many sectional championships. It's kind of odd to see them having to play, in the first night, which would be Wednesday night. Again, at 6 o'clock, both those teams are playing Whitman and Lions. No offense to North Rose, Wolcott, or Sodus, but you're probably, not going anywhere, honestly. And then especially North Rose, but either one of them. Williamson, good season, no doubt. Tough to see them being able to beat Navon, but Lions and Whitman in a quarterfinal matchup, that's big time. I wish it didn't play out that way. I would rather see them in a semi, but there they are, stuck in the same bracket. And then they would have to get by a tough Avon team, which I think they can. I would even, pretty close game there. I want to say that Lions might be favored and Whitman might be underdogs if it got that far. And then East Rochester has a tough Canasteo Greenwood team potentially in their way, but could see definitely, we talk about Lions being a favorite, right? But they're coming out of the 4 seed, but I still think they're the favorites to win this.
It's hard not to feel that way looking at it just based on what we know and what they do. If we go by what's the proper term, transient, right? Properties here. Geneva beats Avon, Lions beat Geneva, Whitman lost to Geneva. So I mean, lineage wise here, who fully knows? But especially on that top
Whitman
half.
played Lions this year, didn't they?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and Lions won.
Lions beat Whitman, so it's just one of those things where
it's been a little rivalry, and now it's going to be kind of kicked up a notch when they could play in a sectional quarterfinal game. Both teams with sectional aspirations, and they got to play in the quarterfinals.
It's one of those things where it's like, I think we have to feel kind of robbed in essence that game's going to be as early as it is. But hey, we can't control that.
It's likely to happen,
right? Yeah,
because it's early, but still.
I mean, it's tough not to probably view Lions through the prism of being favorites. Then I'd probably go ER and then Whitman after ER as it stands right now. And the only reason why I do that is because ER is essentially alone on the bottom half of the bracket in terms of these Wayne Finger Lakes teams for us. So it's going to be interesting. Canasteo Greenwood too. You can't take lightly by any means down there in the 3 seed. So it's going to be interesting. The final couple weeks for Whitman really kind of threw them for a loop, because even if they probably get one of those games back, they're probably sitting, I don't know about the bottom half of the bracket, but they're probably in a little bit better standing than
they did beat UPrep, which was some serious
Yeah.
sectional points this past week, but then they lost to Pelmac. But I don't know, Kyle. Like, first of all, I know I can ask you. I know you think if it came down to it, the Lions would beat Whitman, right?
Yeah.
So what about Avon?
Yeah. Well, with Geneva just beating them, I feel confident in that, and it's the time of the year where every year the Lions boys team just turns it up a notch, gets to the Blue Cross Arena.
Wins.
I think they're going to win another championship. I'm not sure. Like I said, I think a couple weeks ago, I don't think they're as good as the state team last year, but I think they win the sectional championship, and I think East Rochester does not make the finals. I think they lose to Canasteo Greenwood, who split a season series with Whitman and barely lost to Lions.
Lions East Rochester in the Blue Cross would be phenomenal, because that is a long time rivalry. I mean, not only back when Lions was in Wayne County and they had some great games, obviously, through the years, but I'm talking about Jim Boeheim playing on Lions against East Rochester in a triple overtime game in the War Memorial back then, they called it, in a game that Jim Boeheim still says is his worst loss of his career.
I'll let you cook on that one, yeah.
So,
I'll take your word for it.
I just saying that goes back. Lions ER goes back. Yeah. And it would be pretty cool, I think, if they did end up meeting in the Blue Cross this year. And I think it's a chance for East Rochester, who won the Wayne County League, to be like, oh, Lions too good to be in the Wayne County League. Well, let me show you what we got. A lot has to happen there, and I don't want to discount Whitman, because all season long I've been thinking Whitman out of B2, good chance, and then they get this horrible draw where they would have to face Lions so early. But if they can get by Lions, and then they can beat Lions. I believe they can. I think Lions is a favorite in that game. I would put it at probably a 8-point favorite if Lions played Whitman in the quarterfinals. But that doesn't mean that Whitman can't pull off that upset. And then if they do that, Avon's a team that Whitman is somewhat familiar with. It was, 3 years ago, or I think they lost to them in the COVID year in the sectional finals. The Avon kid made a half-court shot to send it to overtime, and then Whitman lost. So Greg O'Connor and a lot of those boys who are younger brothers of guys who were on the last Whitman sectional championship team, I think they know what it takes, and I'm not going to count Whitman out. I do think Lions is a favorite. I would love to see East Rochester get there from the bottom half of the bracket and face Lions or Whitman. But, it could all be over on that Avon game. Avon's a good team.
Yeah.
So pretty good stuff. I love this bracket other than the way it shook out, but it's got a lot of intrigue.
Yeah, for sure.
So B1?
B1.
So, usually B1's just stacked with Finger Lakes East teams, but a lot of them are playing in Class A this year. And so it leaves our smaller schools from the East, Waterloo, Penn Yan, and Minders. Now, how is Penn Yan a 10 seed and Dansville the 11 seed when Penn Yan has one win this year? Regardless, you got to like Minders' chance to advance. God, I wouldn't be surprised to see Penn Yan, but it would be their second win of the year. Yeah. But they played so many close games, even against Waterloo. If you're Penn Yan, you think, man, we can beat Waterloo. We only lost to, what did they play this week? Or that was Minders they played. Minders won by 12. Yeah. But Minders is probably playing better than any 6 seed in any classifications right now, coming off 4 straight wins that included Newark, Waterloo, and Whitman, and Penn Yan. So that they got to feel good if they can beat Leroy, that they could beat Waterloo again. But, fingers crossed for that Waterloo-Minders semifinal. That would be off the hook. I don't know where they'd play it, but that would be something. And then up top, World of Inquiry is the class of this section. There's no doubt about that. They did lose. Who did they play last week?
Lions.
Yeah, so Lions beat them
Yep.
By 1. Jameer Johnson needed 33 to do it, but I got it. And Hornell's tough. Livonia, not so much. Wellsville's tough. I think that whoever gets there to the finals, whether it's Waterloo, Leroy, or Minders, are going to have a tough time winning once they get to the Blue Cross. But once you're there, God knows anything can happen, right?
Yeah, I mean, especially the way Minders has been playing, it's tough not to see them being, in terms of a lower seed, quote-unquote, making a run by any means. The World of Inquiry team, obviously, you mentioned, kind of been the class of B1 this year. It's a better team than what Minders played and beat last year in sectional time. The pipe dream of Minders and Waterloo in the semifinals, I think it can happen for sure by any means. You just hope that Waterloo comes out and plays just better ball than what they've played the past couple games for them.
Yeah, they're a little discombobulated.
Yeah. And I think it's possible. Now, again, you'd love somehow if there was a way that we could have had this another way, like Waterloo and Minders in a sectional final would be crazy. But sectional semifinal, that neutral court's the part that sucks about it. I'd love to have it be on like one of the home courts, but
it will be in a high school gym, which is always nice.
And it's going to be crazy. I guess it probably depends who comes out of the top, right? Because they put those semifinals together.
Only if it makes sense geographically. They don't always do it.
Okay. I mean, I know the past few years they
try
really
to do it, but
to
I've seen situations where they've put a B1 semifinal with a B2 semifinal, based on geographical concerns.
Right.
Because some teams aren't allowed to travel so far on a school night and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But wherever it's played, that should be a battle. Now, what about Leroy, which is the biggest competition for Minders or Waterloo?
Yeah, I looked at their schedule quick. I don't think they played any Wayne Finger Lakes teams, but they did lose to Hornell, who's in that class, obviously, by 10. I do like the way Minders is playing. I don't like the way Waterloo's playing. But I do think one of these teams will be in the finals. But I have World of Inquiry winning it all.
Yeah. Another funny thing about this world, they play in the tiniest gym. The gym's probably smaller than this studio now that you can see it. But, once you get to the Blue Cross, exact opposite. Huge court, opens up. Minders was there last year. All these kids were there last year for Minders.
Yeah.
Hillmeyer,
Luffman,
Plummer. Jack Brady was there, Plummer. They won a sectional title there in the Blue Cross. So, as for Waterloo, none of these kids were there. The last time Waterloo was there, they lost to Geneva in a pretty close game 4 or 5 years ago. God, I think it was COVID year. No, it was the year after COVID. Or the year before. It was the year COVID broke out. Like, they played straight through. Geneva won, beat Waterloo. Yeah. Then Geneva won.
Oh, yeah, that was the game that I did when Rudy Gobert also went.
And then the season got canceled before Geneva could get to the Far West.
Because Geneva beat Avon, and they were going to be moving on to Buffalo.
My point being, this particular Minder squad has Blue Cross experience, where this Waterloo crew doesn't, and this Leroy team I don't think does. But nonetheless, we'll see how it plays out, and it will be difficult for that bottom half team, Minders or Waterloo or Penn Yan, to defeat the champ from the top, whether it's World of Inquiry or Hornell or Wellsville, who you can't sleep on this Wellsville team. Very good. So now we move up to Class A, and there's all our friends from the Finger Lakes East now.
Packed all together.
Poor Wayne, number 2 seed. Well, they didn't dominate the regular season to the extent we thought they would. Still extremely good season, 18-2. 2 losses coming to Newark and Waterloo. Newark just a couple weeks ago, and there's Newark right collision course potentially, although Palmac's playing good now too. Newark 10 seed, I guess you always get a last chance. Like, Newark has had such a horrible regular season, honestly, from what we thought that they do. They did upset Wayne. Then they lose at home to Minders. This is their last chance to kind of put it together. And I think, honestly, it's probably too late, But, God, you can't love it if you're Wayne. I think if you're Wayne, you'd almost rather be playing a Batavia or a Greece Odyssey rather than Palmac or Newark, who you're more familiar with, especially a team you lost to. Although I think Wayne will kick it into a little extra gear now at this point, without knowing what's on the line. And if they are able to make it through potential matchup against East High, that's a team that ended the careers of Logan Blankenberg and Billy Thompson and Big Country. God, I got bad memory.
I'll say I know you're not fully talking about Bryant Reeves.
No,
so.
It was Carmichael.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That was an incredible group that brought the first school sectional championship in school history to Wayne, and I think they won 2, and then East High ended their career at Victor High School in a sectional final. But, yeah, this is tough. This is real deal basketball here, and, as good as Palmac has looked at times this year, and as good as we think Newark can be, neither one of them has shown us much of anything, enough, where Wayne, I think, is going to find themselves in the semifinals, and then, of course, been focused on that little mini 4-team tournament, but right below them, the 3 seed right behind Wayne is Geneva, and there's a team that's starting to peak. So Geneva-Wayne semifinal, that would be something. But I don't want to count Palmac or Newark out. I just put my money on Wayne, and then I think Geneva is trending in the right direction. If you could see Geneva potentially upsetting Wayne in the semifinal. But whoever it is that gets to the Blue Cross, they're going to have a tough go of it with East High. Now, Batavia hasn't been great this year. Pittsford Sutherland not that great. So the real only true threat I see in the top is East High.
Yeah, I think I don't know about East High's necessarily to lose. It'd be interesting to see how it plays out, but the top two seeds are the same as last year. East at number 1, Wayne at number 2, so something to keep an eye on there. Ed Collins of Geneva, Coach of the Year for Class A, so congratulations to him.
Oh, yeah,
in the program
congratulations,
there.
Coach Collins. I didn't know that.
Yep.
I didn't catch that.
Yep, so good stuff there. Rubber match for the season between Paul Mac and Newark. They split the season series, I believe, right? Yep. So, I mean, a lot of different storylines within that mini, as you mentioned, Jim, 4-team bracket there. I do see a Wayne-Geneva semifinal. The tough part is Wayne just seems to have Geneva's number the past few years. And that's the thing for the Panthers, that if they want to make a run, they got to try and figure out
Geneva's beating good teams, but they've never beat Wayne.
Yeah.
Newark and Palmac played on Tuesday, and Newark won 56-49 to finish the regular season at 9-11. Palmac finished at 10-9. They're very similar, except for the fact that we thought Palmac's a little better than we thought they'd be, and Newark's a lot worse than we thought they'd be in terms of overall record. Now, Newark plays a tough schedule, and they're in a tough league, but, I mean, this is a team that lost to, Minders. They've lost to everybody. They do have a couple good wins, but they've lost to everybody, too.
Yeah, I'm going to take Wayne and Geneva in the semis. I did look, though. Geneva did play a close game with Honeyway Falls Lima way in the beginning of the year, though. They only won by 7. So who knows? I mean, that would be a wild upset if Honeyway Falls Lima beat them.
That's true.
But yeah, I don't think Wayne's gonna have any trouble the next 2 games. I mean, tomorrow is basically like a bye, Mid Lakes for them.
Yeah.
I don't want to predict the Pelmac North game because you don't know what you're gonna get really from either team.
It's a toss up.
Yeah.
I mean, if Newark loses that game, the most disappointing season I can remember for Newark in the last 20 years, based on the talent on the roster. But on the other hand, they win that game. They just beat Wayne. You can upset them again. Then you can flip the whole script.
Yep.
Right? Nobody was going to remember anything about the regular season by the time that this is over.
Well, and that's what I was about to say a little bit here, too, is the fact that, much like any other basketball tournament at any level, whether it be from the NBA to the NCAA to high school, defense matters in sectional time. I know it's a little bit of like no kidding, but I think that's where a team, to me, like Geneva, who is my favorite team I've seen on defense so far this year, because they just throw a bunch of different schemes at you, and it usually works out pretty damn well for them. Where if they hold you to like under 45 points or at 45 points, if you're a team, like you're gonna have issues because Geneva can pick that up on offense a little bit too, as long as everything's going right for them. So. I think it's possible we could see Geneva make, like I mentioned, like it's going to be tough to overcome. I think maybe that mental element of Wayne just beating them consistently the past couple of years, but like who knows, when you get down to it.
Yeah, Wayne beat them by 19 and 17 this year.
Yeah.
So Geneva's got to find a way to contain Blankenberg a little bit and do what they did against Waterloo. They beat Waterloo by 40.
Yeah.
Just 2 weeks ago.
I know, so that's why they are trending up, but. Sometimes there's that team, and that you just can't crack. And for Geneva, that's been Wayne. But third time might be a charm, especially on a neutral court, semifinal somewhere. Be fun to see if it can get there. And it would be equally fun to see if Newark or Palmac can get there too.
Yeah.
To face them. Any Wayne Finger Lake. Well, guaranteed one Wayne Finger Lakes team in that
That's
semifinal.
True. That is true.
Whether it's Wayne, Mid Lakes, Palmac, or Newark.
Yep.
And then Geneva has to hold out their end of the bargain, and then we're guaranteed a Class A finalist, which should be a really good game in the Blue Cross, whoever it is that they're facing. Probably, could be East High. A little trivia for you. There's one school that has more Section 5 titles than Wayne in basketball, and that would be East High.
You mean Lions?
Lions, yeah, Lions. Wayne doesn't have many. Wayne has 2 or 3.
I think it's 3 now. I could be wrong.
But Lions has like 28 or something.
East High has 27, and Lions has 22.
Yeah, there you go. So.
And Newark's tied for third with 14.
And then you go down a little further, and you find Minders at like 5th or 6th, right?
7th. They're tied for 7th with Aquinas with 9.
So we cover the Wayne Finger Lakes here, and and from hearing that, rundown, you can see the best basketball in Section 5 comes from the Wayne Finger Lakes leagues, traditionally over time. And so we're rooting for all these teams on the boys and girls side here to, get a couple more sectional titles this year, give us some thrills, maybe make us book some hotel rooms in Hudson Valley or Binghamton.
Yeah, it'd be nice.
Buffalo, stopping Buffalo along the way.
Yeah, that's true. Quick note, I know we kind of mentioned a little bit of the other bigger stuff too. Canandaigua was the second seed in AA2. Head coach James Davern, coach of the year in AA2 for that as well. So
They're really good.
there. So, yeah, they're really good. This was it's interesting because Victor's up in A1 in AA1. Apologies, and they've had a really great run the past couple of years. Down
Not
here
this year.
they graduated a ton of talent,
Yep.
including Garrett Clark, for example, who's been in the studio before with us. So, yeah, just a down year for them. But Canandaigua, the Gray Wolves, having one hell of a run this year as well. So,
Well, fellas, I mean, best time of the year. Plus, when we get through it, it's usually spring kind of starts to break, so there's that too. But just not knowing what we're going to see for sure. Sometimes there's some great surprises. Sometimes there's some big disappointments. But there is nothing like postseason basketball here in Section 5 and these sectional tournaments. And before we get out of here, who do you like to? We've seen all the brackets, we've seen all the classifications. Who do you like to make a state run? Like, if you had to pick one team from either bracket, I kind of like Honeyway as a dark horse. I mean, down there in C2, I think they got a nice path to the sectional title, and then you win a Far West regional game. After you got to get out of that C tournament too, but I kind of like Honeyway, and on the boys' side at least. On the girls' side, I think this Waterloo team still is the team to beat. And if you're talking about team state runs, is there anybody I'm missing? What about the Lions girls? I mean, we're worried about them winning a sectional title. Can they do much beyond that? Or the Lions boys, for that matter? It's
tough not to, I think, just kind of go to the teams that have been doing it the past couple of years.
It's a big advantage.
Yeah, that's the thing with it for me. It's like, putting me in the box, it's hard not to pick like Waterloo girls or the Lions boys. The teams that Wayne boys too, for that matter, who have just done it more recently than not. In that sense, especially like. The example for me, probably more so than now, would be like the Lions boys and the Waterloo girls, where it's like they just have consistently have had this core that's now done it a couple times over. Like that, I know we've stated a lot, but that matters. It really does matter. So on the girls' side, I'm going to go Waterloo. Boys' side, God, it's a little bit more tricky. I'll go Lions boys. I just think the experience matters a ton when you
come in as a 4 seed. But yeah, that C2 tournament could be interesting. I mean, actually Lions is in B, so you wouldn't see like a Lions Honeyway.
Yeah.
But you would see a Lions Waterloo or Lions Minders or Lions Whitman are going to face off second round. It looks like, but. How about and then I think on the girls' side we mentioned Waterloo and Lions girls, but Newark girls, Dundee Bradford girls, potentially even Bloomfield, could be a bit of a sleeper. How about you, Kyle? What do you think in terms of state caliber teams?
Yeah, I think there's only one boys team for me, and that is Lions. But I did say though I don't think they're as good as last year. Therefore, I don't think they're going to make it. To let's say the Final Four. I think they could win the playdown game? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, playdown, playoff. Who the hell knows?
It would be the Class B. They'd be facing the B1 champ.
Yeah, and for the girls, I think that's tough for me. I know Waterloo has a history like Lions, but I'm not sure this Waterloo team makes it that far this year.
I've doubted them before.
I think they're going to win a sectional championship. I just don't know about getting that far into states.
Yeah,
so I really don't know. I mean, I guess I'll throw a dark horse out there. I mean, I don't know if it's that dark, but Bloomfield girls maybe.
Yeah, I like Bloomfield Girls is the dark
I like the
horse.
bracket,
Dundee
too.
Bradford girls.
I was gonna say if I had to pick a dark horse, I'll do Dundee Bradford boys. Throw them into the ether a little bit.
They didn't even finish in their top 10 power rankings.
Even more so, why not? That's a
Yeah, that
Well,
is a
dark
true
horses you can
dark
get.
horse.
you know.
And the Lions girls, yeah, I do like them. I'm just not sure, how far they can really make it. So
I feel like if they win a sectional title, then everybody's pleased as punch, and they're,
Yeah.
and a loss in a playoff game or a Far West Regional is not going to hurt too much. I think, they haven't gotten that first one with this. It's been a while.
Yep.
So I think they'd be happy, as would most schools. I don't think. Let's put it this way. I don't think there's any schools in the Wayne Finger Lakes this year that will be disappointed when they end their season with a sectional title but don't make it past that. In the years past, there's been a few teams where they've set their goals higher than sectionals. I don't think there's anything like that this year. I think any team that wins a sectional title, great season, no matter what happens beyond that. And we certainly got, as we just showed, plenty of possibilities. One final question. How many sectional championships out of the Wayne Finger Lakes this year? I am going to say 3.
That's what I was going. I was leaning 3. I was leaning 3 only because I see B1 with Waterloo, B2 girls probably 2 with probably Lions. I would say Lions or Whitman there. I could see either.
Well, the boys with Honeyoy and South Senegal,
Yeah.
1-2 seed. That's got to yield one, maybe.
Actually, no. Now
Maybe
I don't know if
4?
I don't know if I'm talking myself into 4 and 5 here. That's my issue now that I'm talking out loud about it. So, you want to know what? I won't do 3. I'll say 5. Give me a whole
All
lot.
right,
Why
shoot
not?
for the moon.
Yeah.
Kyle's crunching the numbers.
Yeah, I'll say I'm going to do 4. I think the Waterloo girls, Lions boys, Honeyoy boys. I would like to see Wayne, the Wayne boys win it, but East High, man, they're just too tough.
Yep. Well, I know Coach Thompson, if he gets that far, we'll be ready for him with a good game plan. Probably pull up that tape from when they last played in Victor a few years ago. But, yeah, either way, hold on to your hats, man. And first of all, thanks everybody for joining us every week here on the Upstate Hoops podcast. This is our last episode. We're a little too busy, once postseason starts, to pull the studio show together each week. But we may be back postseason to interview some champions if it works out that way. But officially, this is our final episode of the season. We'll be back next year around shortly after Thanksgiving with a fresh new power rankings for the 2025-26 season.
All too early.
Yeah, we could do an all too early power rankings. We used to do that in the past sometimes, like in April. But either way, it's been an exciting year. It never disappoints. So every year I've tried to teach myself that you enter a new year and you're like, oh, I don't know, man. There's not that many great teams. There's some of the best, our favorite players graduated, and I don't know if this season will be as good as the last. But it never disappoints. Teams get better, new people emerge, and it's happened this year without a doubt. And it's set up for what should be a great couple of weeks here in the postseason. So for my broadcast partners here, Paul Russo and Kyle Evans, I'm Jim Sinicropi. I want to thank you for another season of Wayne Finger Lakes High School basketball on the Upstate Hoops podcast. Thanks for joining us. Be sure to check out fingerlakes1.com to find out where we're going to be broadcasting from over the next couple weeks. We'll probably pick it up in the sound, and we might do there's a couple good quarterfinals. So, watch the front page of Finger Lakes 1 for those announcements. And, good luck to all the players and coaches in the Wayne Finger Lakes as we head into sectionals, and we will see you back here on the podcast next year.